All right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome to this very special episode of Warrior Week Parables from the Pit. Very special for two reasons. Number one, we got Fathers and Son edition once again. This time is Mike Hardy and his son Jacob. Welcome to the show. And also, this is very, very unique because this is going to be our 100th episode. So you get to own the 100. So it's a good title, son. And it's not going to come twice. So you get to keep that. So, gentlemen, thank you for being on the show. We're going to talk about Warrior Week. We're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about what's going on right now as a father, as a son, inside of a world where like human potential has been almost put on human potential, human momentum, like literally momentum has been put on pause. And we all had to divert and do things differently. And 2021 is coming. For some, is the unknown. For most, is okay. This year, the war was brought upon us. We survived, but I'm getting ready to win the war of 2021. And one of the main thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to actually start focusing internally what matters. You know, me, my life, my family, and we see more and more of that, like disconnection from what other people want, other people think. So we're going to talk about that. But before that, Mike, you came to Warrior Week 29 and 51, right? So we're going to roll back and kind of like what brought you to 29. Just I know it's like almost 6 years now, right?
Yeah, we're we're,
Five, yeah.
we're almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
Almost 5 years. Yeah. So what brought me to 29? I was at a place where I knew that I needed to change my thought process, and I was at a place where work was becoming all consuming, and I knew that my job as a husband and a father, which was just not simple at all. It's not simple to figure these things out. You always think there's a playbook for it. There isn't. And I needed to kind of, let's call it reprioritize and realign my life. So 29 was something that just was perfect timing for me because it helped me to get centered and focused and clear on the things that were really important to me. So gosh, I'm gonna have to think back because it feels like a lifetime ago. But yeah, I guess we're coming up on 5 years now.
Man, it does feel like a lifetime ago. Like I have very clear images of 29, right? I have very clear memories of 29. But there's a big gap between everybody that came to 29 and where men are today, especially you, right? And a couple of weeks ago we were inside of HQ and we were working on our 90-day game plan. You and I talked about 2 days ago, no, I mean 2 weeks ago on the call. We're having you down here with Jacob, and it's just like it's not the same Mike. I remember that Mike, especially after the fight. It's just it was a different Mike. Like it was. Well, you have like at least 30 pounds more muscle now than right at least 25.
I don't know. I
Come on,
moved the
man.
right. I moved the right direction. Let's just say
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Much, yeah, much different. But let's just that change renewed your mindset, right? You took the tools and you created life, and then you came back to 51. What was not working for you where you decided that, hey, I want to come back to this thing, or what invited you this time to come?
To come back to 51. So there's something that at least I've realized for me is part of human nature, and it is that if there's not an intention to grow with a healthy environment, that it's easy to slide back and slip back. And so 51 for me was almost a recommitment to no compromise in all areas of life. And it wasn't that. I think sometimes like good can be the enemy of great, and it wasn't that things were bad. Things were moving in a good direction. Business was going in a positive direction, and I think what I needed was to re-anchor the foundation, and get to a place where I had a higher level of certainty. And I think that, I don't know, I was just thinking about this recently. You've talked about this. There's clarity brings certainty. Certainty brings confidence. Confidence brings courage. And so often, if there's not the highest level of clarity and certainty, there's a lot of wheel spinning. And so I knew that I wanted to double down on what worked. And so that's part of what brought me back.
And that, I remember that training. I remember that training you're talking about. I think it was years ago when we framed it out on clarity. The first thing we need to do is just get clear. Once a dude is very clear on what he wants, then like he becomes almost certain that this is what he needs to do. Yeah. But there's a big difference between certainty and confidence. Certainty is the feeling that comes. Confidence is the feeling that comes after certainty. Hey man, you got clear. You wanted to do that. You did it. And now you're confident because what you did actually produced results, right? That's the huge distinction between certainty and confidence. And certainty and confidence is this vicious loop, right? The more certain decisions we make and the more confident we become because of the results produced by those certain decisions. And then comes the magical piece, right? Which is having the courage to let it all go. You've gained all this confidence. It all worked out. Everything is great. Now I have to find the courage to let it go in order to recreate. Because when we don't find the courage, then we find ourselves in the comfort of our confidence. We stick in there for a while, and it becomes the comfort zone. We're confident in it. It's what we're good at, right? We're good at running, let's say. So we're going to stick there for years, and we're not going to go swim in the ocean because that's out of our comfort zone. And that's the courage of, okay, am I going to let go running to now become a swimmer? And it's tough because most of your lives you've been running, right? Now running is what you're best at. What you know of is like, why would I do that? Well, because you can grow. Yeah. So talk to me about this whole concept. Like how many times you've let go, man, in the past 5 years of things that was working for you, but you kind of like the conversation of good to great. The hardest part to get to great is giving up good.
Yeah, 100%. So as you're saying that, I'm realizing like one of the things that I've always struggled with is I'm a very calculated risk taker. And I'll take risk, but it has to be very calculated. And so something that just in the last, I don't know, probably 5 years or so, I've learned, especially through the warrior training, is to slow down long enough to take that meditation, that quiet time every morning, and just to listen and to not just act on calculated risk, but also there's another element to it that I never totally got, but I now get through recent experience, which is just like listening to that still small voice that you can't hear unless you slow down and listen, and then acting on that, which is not always logical.
Yeah.
And so it's what I've had to learn is that there's opportunities that are, let's call it for me anyway, windows in time where it may not totally add up, and it sometimes can be counter to logic, but to act on like a strong sense of intuition opens up worlds of opportunity that I completely would have missed out on if I had not.
Wow. So we're going to go here to Jacob. I'm going to be switching mics back and forth. Jacob, man, how old are you, bro?
I'm 19.
Okay, great. So 19, that means you were 14 when your dad started having his first experience with Warrior. And so what can you tell us as an observer, as a son, as somebody that watched your dad just gone through this experience? What are some of the things that you've noticed about your dad, man?
Well, I mean, I can see him practicing the stuff that he's been learning with you guys. He always has like his planner, and I see him like go out of his way to dedicate that time each day to do the things that you guys teach him and to kind of just improve himself in a bunch of different ways. And he did put on some muscle too.
Yeah. So. Yeah, 30 pounds, bro. 30. So another question for you, man. What is the biggest lesson that you learned from your dad in this 5 years, right? Like, is there a memory? Is there a time in the past 5 years where, like, man, like, fuck, I'm so proud that this guy's my dad. Like, dude, like, this guy, I just learned some shit from this guy, man. And so it just that thing that stays in you. You know what I mean? I have that with my dad. I remember one of the things I remember forever. My dad was, and it just comes back all the time, is on my wedding day. He said something I never left my mind, and I always repeat it. He says, living a life with someone is easy, but building a life with someone is very difficult. And when things get hard at home, sometimes I'm sure it does at your house too. When there's arguments and maybe not pans flying around. It depends on the house. But anyway, when things get heated between two people that like man, they're committed to each other and they live with each other, there comes this always comes in my mind. It's like, yeah, I can live with someone for a very long time, but to build something, to have common projects. So if you can like maybe talk about like one memory or even like one project that you were so proud to work with your dad on the past 5 years, that you could see, you could see a lot of the attitude of your dad, being influenced by what he does, right? The work, we call it here the work. Warrior didn't give anything. Your dad is just a blueprint, and basically, what your dad does is he does the work, right? He does this thing to make himself better first thing in the morning. We call it core four, but what it really is just self love. Like you get to appreciate yourself, invest in your body, invest in your spirituality, conversations with God. Invest in your family by like putting some gratitude out, dude. I can tell you, man, as a young blood, there is nothing there is nothing more powerful in this world that to train your brain with gratitude. It is the best training for your brain. Yes, there are scientists out there. Yes, there are super smart people out there. Yes, there are doctors. All that is beautiful. But your brain, if it's trained on gratitude, it will be a weapon in the society. So anyway, man, time to you to like for you to share something that you observed during this time with your dad, man.
So I liked what you said about the projects.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I can like that's relatable like right off the bat because well, I guess in chronological order, the first thing was my the car that I had at the time wasn't like doing too well. So
What car was it, bro, man?
Oh.
Honda Civic?
no, it was a 1990 Nissan 300ZX and it is thoroughly clapped.
Lucky you. What? 19 what?
1990.
Oh, hold on, man. Man, I remember when I was 19, I had a piece of crap. It was a Honda Civic 82 with two doors, and I had to attach the actual doors with a cord because like the lock and nothing was working out. It was manual shift, and I didn't even have the nut on it, so I had to take like the little, with my two fingers. Anyway, back to you.
So I had that car. It was kind of along the same lines as yours, but it was by the time I sold it, had low compression, like it was just all beat up. But I changed the clutch on it myself, which was my first like very like involved, I guess, working on a car. Before that, it was just doing little things here and there, and he would always come in and be like. This is a question that he's asked me recently when I've been working on the car I have now. He'd just walk in and say, "Are you winning, son?" And that's like the funniest thing to me and all my friends because that happens to be a meme like at the same time that he says it. So, but he would always just like kind of walk, like, "Hey, can I use your garage? I need to work on my car." Yeah, sure. And then it was in the garage for like 4 months because I didn't know what I was doing. But he let me just kind of figure it out, and then I worked through it, and so that was kind of cool. But I think a more down the road you're kind of leading to project would be he and I are both working on getting our pilot's license right now, so that's been fun.
Submarine or planes?
Airplanes.
Oh, okay, dude, submarine would have been cool. Gone 6 months, farther than dad. Nowhere with 1,200 can of tuna. What did you see? Nothing.
Blue.
That's great. So how many hours do you have in your courses right now?
I think I have about 20. I've been going through periods of getting a lot of hours at the same time, and then kind of not doing much hours for like a month or two when stuff gets really busy. But then both of us are both like kind of about the same spot, like maybe halfway through getting our actual license. But it's cool, he was there when I soloed, then he didn't tell me when he was going to do his first solo, so that I didn't get to go show up and be like, "Oh, your landings are terrible," but like, it's cool to see like both of us go through the same process around the same time.
It's on the record now, man. It's on the record and it's public. Okay. Dude, that's so cool. Such a common project. And let's just face it, man, right? It's not an ordinary project. It's not like, son, let's go to the pool and swim a lap, right? It's like we're flying right now. And, there's a lot of feeling involved with, courage to take off and, being in the air. And so, awesome project, man. Awesome project. And that's kind of what we do here at Warrior, right? We kind of a little bit crazy. We take these challenges upon ourselves. What about you personally, man? Like, beside changing a clutch, which is pretty crazy at that age, I'll give you that. Most 19-year-old have their head in the toilet right now, and they're blacked out because they had too many, whatever they're consuming right now. But hey, man, that changing a clutch, that's old school. That's like, that's like saying fuck you to the Telsas and all that shit. It's like I'll stick with this. So, what about some other cool project that you've been on, man? Something challenging that maybe COVID has caused so much challenge for your generation, just being disconnected from friends. Man, I can't imagine like how would that be. I know at 19 I wanted to be all over the place, right? Every night I want to be all over the place. So, but like, how has that been challenging for you, and what were you able to do during this time to kind of like, pivot?
So I think right off the bat when COVID just kind of happened, I thought I was going to get laid off from my job. I thought I was going to get fired, and I was working like full time basically. So I went a week with like working 0 hours and hearing about coworkers that had been laid off, and I was like, oh no, I'm next. What am I gonna do? And then the next week they got slammed with like the busiest they've ever been, and it's been like record breaking sales since then.
Wow.
So I got lucky and got to keep my job, and a lot of my time outside of work and money has been going into the car that I have right now.
Okay, let's hear it. What is the car, bro? We know you want to say it. Like, what is the car?
It's a 1999 Toyota 4Runner, and it's got a TRD supercharger and some other cool stuff on it.
Oh, nice. So you changed category. You went on 4x4.
I did, and I don't regret it at all, actually.
Okay.
But
so you were not in the speed, but you were more into discovering off-road.
Well, I am in the speed, but that's for when I save up even more money, and then I can go back to get something faster.
For the record, I am in the speed, and I will take that Audi outside for a spin.
Maybe. Might have done it before.
Who knows? Dude, so cool. All right. Let's go back, Mike, to you, man. That first night into the pit, right? And we're talking about specifically 51, right? Because that's the most of it. There is most people sit out there and look at Warrior as, it's a cool program. They put you through some tough stuff, and it's mental toughness. It has, like, okay, I'll tell you, Sacred Jacob, it has nothing to do with fucking mental toughness. These guys only, like, they at most did 15 or 20 push-ups. So, but there is a miserable process that takes place on day one, and it's long, and it goes to the night, and it's called the pit, and it just, just like all of us, doesn't matter the age, it just makes us face the stuff that we have inside, the feelings that we kept inside, the times that we should have said something we didn't, the times that we said some shit that we shouldn't, basically the relationships that we've either distanced ourselves from or we invited in our lives that caused us harm, right? And there's this thing that deep inside as a place is there's this pain that resides. And no matter what man you look at, what age, all of us have this pain inside of us. But we are not willing to feel the pain. It's just like the majority of us just, listen, man, don't want to fucking feel that shit. So fuck off, right? So like we don't want to feel that. And the first night of Warrior Week process is kind of like a transition into allowing a man to feel some of that pain, right? And when that is felt, it is in that moment that we feel like almost like something that wasn't part of us, that was inside of us, is kind of left. And we feel good. It was painful, but at the end of it, we feel a little bit stupid too. Like, why did I hold on to this, man? It was always me. It wasn't nobody else. I'm the one that made a mountain out of an anthill because of my feelings. So that's kind of what takes place on day one. And, we'll leave that for the experience. Your dad went through the same thing. I went through the same thing. And that kind of opens the space for next day for something more beautiful to come in. So you go through the first night, obviously miserable, crazy stuff the first night, get some sleep. Now, you're ready, and we go, and next day it's entering into the light. What was your experience on next day and the experiences that we had on the mountains, the hand of God, and those experiences? What was the thing that stood out the most for you, man?
So one of the things I've learned both through 29 and 51 is that, at least for me, there's a heightened learning experience that takes place when I'm pushed to my limit that does not exist if I'm not pushed to the limit. And so it's hard to, I push myself. It's hard to get there on my own, but to get pushed to the very limit, there's lessons that can be, there's things that can be let go of, and there's lessons that can be absorbed that just wouldn't otherwise. And so I think for me, there's a couple things that were key lessons in my life. Number one, like going into the pit, the things that I had to let go of were not have, like my parents split up back when I was, I don't know, it's probably 15 years ago or so now, but like I realized that I held some like resentment for both of them because of that. And I don't know that it was that apparent to me, but because of getting pushed to the edge physically during the day and then being faced to just like own whatever's inside that's holding me back, those are a couple things that floated to the surface, right? I had to own that and let go of that, which there's a catharsis that comes from being able to let go. And then my belief is that it's almost impossible to really grow into who you're supposed to be and experience what's possible for life if there's emotional baggage and anchors that are holding one back. And so that was part of what I got to see. But I don't know, it was almost going from there into the rest of 51. It was almost like I had kind of cut loose of some of the final things that I kind of knew were holding me back, but didn't really know till I was able to like look that in the eye. And then it was almost like a rapid acceleration of insights that took place from there. So my biggest insight was not so much what happened afterwards, but that my capacity for life and love and opportunity opened up when I was able to cut free from things in the past.
Wow, that was great. In the second day, there was a particular experience, and Jacob, you were involved in that experience without knowing, and we had an evolution where it's known as the children suffering. Remember that one?
I do.
Yes, you better.
I do. Yep.
So, and during this evolution, without giving it away, there's a family picture that is presented at one point. Man, like with Jacob being here, like, what can you recall about that experience and how that shifted? Because that was one that fucking really pushed you too.
Yeah, I don't know how to I'm going to try to put this in the words, but there's something about when, like, what you love most is you have to fight for that a human being can make anything happen. And I realized that, and I kind of always known that intellectually, but got to experience that with, like the crawling through the beach and the sand and the fight. So I just know it really, it more than anything reaffirmed what I am capable of doing for those that I love. It was like a little microcosm for my capacity of what I can do for my family just by going through that experience.
Absolutely. And how did all that experience of expansion that you just mentioned, right? How does that affect you in business right now? Just about 2-3 weeks ago, Garrett shared a letter that you've written to all your employees. Have you read the letter? Bro, you got to read this letter. I got, if we look at on the other side of the office, Damien at Warrior Week 49, he wrote a letter to his son, and I laminated and put that letter. And I think I told you this on the call. Dude, that letter needs to be laminated, and I'll put one in here for sure. And like laminated, put one in your office. I'll put one in here because they came across. Maybe this is the second time I'm coming across such a letter. It's literally words of God that are written in there. And what can you tell between the relationship of you being pushed out of that comfort zone and you being able to express such a leadership? So well articulated. You look at that letter, there's no fancy word. It's just purely the truth. So, and it was about COVID, and if you can share some of it on this as well, so that the men that are listening on this, especially the men that have son exactly the same age of Jacob or approximate, they would benefit from. But your dad wrote something about COVID and how we viewed COVID and what it was. And man, it is one of the most powerful things I've written during the past 6-7 months when this virus hit and kind of like paralyzed and created fear and this fog of hesitation among everyone, young, adult, just people doing stupid things because of that. So what can you share with us, man, on that?
Yeah, so the title of it was 2020 will not define you, but it will reveal you. And the premise behind it was, I mean, I'm a perspective guy, and so I started thinking about this for a while, and it kind of got in a state of flow when I was writing. But what I was thinking about was that there are, currently 7.8 billion people on this planet. There's been arguably 110 billion people on this planet over the course of recorded history. And if every generation faces some sort of heavy crisis that they have to go through, okay? So first of all, it was a perspective thing. And, ours is COVID, okay? So, yeah, it's complicated. But the point is, like, if you had to go back in time and you would just surface in any generation and deal with their biggest crisis of the generation, and you look through what people have gone through over the course of history, Dark Ages, Holocaust, Black Plague. I mean, you could name anything that could come up in our generation, and we're so just, wrought over the challenges of COVID. The issue is, in my opinion, is like it's a gift because people get to see, I mean, we'll recover from it. Yes, it's complicated economically for a lot of people for a year. It will recover. And yes, there's a lot of political issues, and there's a lot of issues. The point is that when there's challenges, people will fall to their level of their foundation. So everyone's being exposed right now for who they really are. Mindset, like spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, like everything. You fall to the level of your base systems. And so the thinking was that this is a gift, not a curse. There's an Einstein saying, which is, within every challenge is an opportunity so great that it literally will dwarf the problem itself. And so the opportunities, and from my opinion, are we get to see where we're exposed. We still have such this country, the 13 generations since we were founded as a constitutional republic, the opportunities here are unbelievable, yet our perspective is so skewed. And so that was my conviction that I wanted to share with the team, was that no matter what the challenge is, if you've done the work, right? And that's why I appreciate Warrior and the Core 4 and the General's Tent and strategic objectives and the stack now, which is, I mean, all these things. These are tools which, if it only takes an hour a day to be able to fortify yourself for a lifetime, is like the insight. So I don't know. There's a lot that could spin off from that, but it was really more a matter of just look for the gift and the opportunity, see what areas of your life you need to shore up, and realize what a blessing and a gift it is to live in this country with unlimited opportunity.
That is so true. And unfortunately, that's not the case, right? There's a lot of 19-year-old G.I. Joes right now in the street. There's a lot of 19-year-old that will just simply they'll tell you, man, just leave this country, right? If you don't agree with this, leave this country. And there's literally zero fucking understanding of what it is coming out of their mouth. And what it is just, man, hesitation, fatigue, boredom, all of it together, what they used to have. And it all comes down to perspective. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, 19-year-old, man, like, how many dick of perspective can this person have? So I get it. I get the confusion, right? And at the same time, it's hurting because it's just, it's one 19-year-old that supports one 19 and so on and so on. So as a 19-year-old sitting obviously on the other side, man, what are your thought process, and what are your perspective on what is happening, and what has that perspective created as an action for you? Like, because of your perspective, what is it that you do or you don't?
I think I would say like one of the things I've noticed recently just among people is that everybody tends to react to their emotions before like logic, and that I guess that's been good for me to realize like, hey, I need to step back and think about this logically instead of emotionally, like acting on it right off the bat, because that's how you know, go into something without the proper insight and end up making a mistake.
Well said. Your dad is a very logical guy, so I wonder where the fuck you got that. But your dad is also a very emotional guy, and but emotions that, emotions of compassion, emotions of fire that doesn't burn, but fire that warms. In so, our emotions are also a weapon. Our mind takes our emotions and make a story about it. And if we leave the logical side, the mind will take a story and just lean on, stupidity and aggressivity, and often these kids, man, all they want, Mike, is intensity. They just want some intensity right now because fuck, nothing is intense, but they mix it with aggressivity, and this is where the distinction is. They can't distinguish between being intense and passionate, and it just blends in with aggressivity. So the outcome becomes something that is not digestible, especially by adults or common sense people that have gone through that. So, man, hey, I want to thank you, Jacob, for being here. I know, just driving down here an hour and a half with your dad, I'm sure it was pretty cool in the car. Did he let you drive?
He offered for me to drive.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so, but I do want to thank you being here. You bring a perspective that is important to be talked to, because our audience, look, man, we're not really a popular show here, and we never do this for popularity. But there's about 2,000, 3,000 dudes only that listen to this, and all these dudes are fathers, right? And so to hear you, it's meaningful because they're getting insight as if what their kids are thinking. And some of these guys, and they're not in a place where Mike is, where he would just ask you, where you at, or are you winning? You may get a text from me, from time to time, it's like, are you winning? But I want to thank you for being here. There is an impact that your words has, that you don't see it now, but it happens in people's life. And the way I say that is not because I'm some magician and can see in the future. It's because it's already taken place through other podcasts. Emails that come back and say, hey, thank you for having, Christian, because Christian was another guy, son and dad episode. Thank you for having Christian. So much impact on me. So know that, and those emails will come in and those messages will come in. Mike, thanks for being here. As always, you've been inside of this game for you, not for Warrior. Like, you're not a client of Warrior. You've been a founder of what this thing is. Like Garrett said last week, he built this thing to build him and build us, and we all build it to build ourselves. Warrior is just a template. Like, nobody will give you something. You have to do the work, and you're an example of that. Example of pushing towards, through the comfort zone and being here. So, final words would be, if there's a guy right now on the other side of the camera, right, listening to you, and this guy is exactly who you were in 2014, 2015. Right, and what would your message would be to him in a way that just goes to his heart and has an invitation for him to act upon your message?
So there's windows in life that I think surface to be able to move forward and to improve who you are and change your future and change your legacy for generations. To cut free from the things of the past that hold you back, and put you in a position to be able to grow with clarity, certainty, confidence, and courage into the future. And what I've noticed, and one of the things I deeply appreciate about the Warrior platform, is that it allowed me to be able to accelerate my growth in a way that I would not have been able to otherwise. I would have figured it out. It just would have taken 15 years instead of, 2 to get to that place. And then, so my point is, like, we have one life, right? And so the question is, the question is, how do you become fully alive, maximize your gifts, maximize your opportunities, pour into those that you love and care about, and do that with intention and meaning. And I have a lot of gratitude for Warrior for being able to have the platform that gave me that window and allowed me to accelerate the growth. So my message is this: it's super simple. It's like when something is in front of you and you feel it welling up, it's there for a reason. It's because you're supposed to act on it. Trying to figure out all the finance, trying to figure out all that stuff, it's a waste of time, and you could spin your wheels for years trying to find the perfect window. When you feel it, you just go, and that's my lesson.
Beautiful. And so if this message it truly resonated with you inside of your heart, and that you feel that there's another man in your life that could actually benefit from these words, the words that Mike shared with us, the words that Jacob shared with us, if you feel that you know a man that is in a situation where Mike and his son is, father and son, and although this relationship is an amazing one, but they're suffering in theirs, and you feel that these words could actually help them and guide them to their experiences, and their experiences could bring them to Warrior Week, their experiences could bring them to reading a book here at Warrior. It doesn't matter, right? The first step is to just pay it forward. So listen, just take this podcast, don't share it on social media, don't say listen to this, not a generic share. We don't care for that. Take it and target it like an arrow in this man's heart and just forward it and, follow it with some fire. Listen, motherfucker, it's time for you to listen to this shit. Because I'm tired of fucking witnessing you fucking up a relationship with your son. So listen to this. And if it requires fire. And if it requires some love, you say, hey, man, it would be really, 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 really good for you to listen to this. I'm telling you this from the bottom of my heart. Please act upon this. Watch this. Listen to this. And let me know how it goes. So that's what I'm asking you to do if you've been listening to this and this matters. With that being said, I want to thank Mike and Jacob for being here. And gentlemen, you can find us on warriorweeknow.com for all the other episodes. This is being the 100th episode. There is all the Warrior Week videos, the speeches, and the testimonials of Warrior Week and Warrior Week Plus. Everything is on one place for you to listen, watch, and review. Thanks for being with us.